Greetings, duelists, and welcome to another video. Today is going to be something a little bit different from what I usually do in the channel. You already know that I sort of like talking about new cards from new sets whenever they debut from time to time. Uh, in Rage of the Abyss, which is the main booster set that comes after Infinite Forbidden, we are getting a retrain of METALMORPH. And I was a huge fan of METALMORPH when it first got released. I was a super big fan when Bandit Keith was using it in the anime, and like in that duel versus Joey, those teams were involved, and what it got involved with Red Eyes and with Zoa, but these cards are not good. Throughout history, these cards were just ridiculously hard to summon. Like just having Metal Morph be used as a catalyst for these cards were like not the best. And to make matters worse, uh, for those who don't know, Metal Morph debuted as a game promo card. Like basically one of the older Yu-Gi-Oh games. Uh, you kind of needed this card from there in order to play this team. You can make the fair argument that all these other cards you needed from the game as well, but that's besides the point. And I think Zoa got released on a separate pack outside of the game packs. I You can correct me in the comments if you have seen that. But yeah, Rage of the Abyss uh, revealed a couple new cards, and it kind of mirrors the theme of all these old Metamorph related cards, including Copycat, even though Copycat is a Joey Wheeler card, but you will see later what I mean by that. Um, but yeah, so before we categorize or talk about Metamorph, we should just talk about like the theme itself. Basically, this trap card you can equip it to a monster, and that monster will gain like 300 attack and defense specifically, and then half the attack of whatever you're attacking. So basically, it makes it so you can almost always win the battle between whatever monster you're attacking with this. And specifically for Red Eyes Black Dragon and Zoa, you can tribute them to summon either Metal Zoa or Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. So that was basically the theme, and Time Machine randomly was part of the theme as well. Basically, if a monster got destroyed, you just bring it back. Uh, this card does not work with Metal Dragon or like the Zoa. I mean, it kind of does, but they need to be summoned by their conditions first. They both are just they're effect monsters, but their effect is basically their condition. So these are basically vanillas. Same with Zoa, and I don't think I need to explain Copycat. So in order for this theme to thrive, they need an easy accessible way into the Metamorph trap. But adding to that, we need like better boss monsters that just have like a better condition for them. Let's start with the Zoa. So we did receive a new version of Zoa. This is called Fiend Beast Zoa, and it reads: if your opponent controls a monster, you can normal summon this card without tributing, which is already nice because like one of the biggest issues with Zoa is that it is a level 7 monster. So it was very hard to summon. So we're good right off the bat. If this card is in your hand, you can special summon it in defense position. Then, if you do not have enhanced Metamorph, I guess we'll talk about that later. In your graveyard, your opponent can special summon one monster from their hand. So you need to be careful when you're summoning this card, because this card can also be special summoned by itself, which is also really nice. but doing so makes it so your opponent can also summon from their hand. So depending against what deck you're facing, this could be either good or bad in your case. One really nice thing about this card is that you can pair this up with triple tactic thrust and talent, because if your opponent decides to summon a monster from the hand and it's a monster that can activate their effects, then it just plays right into those cards. So that's really cool on that regard. There are some decks in the game where some cards just need your opponent to control monsters. I can think of a few on the top of my head, and those strategies are just not that good if they're going second. So this is a really cool niche card that can work with that. So for the last effect, you can set one Metalmorph trap directly from your deck. You can only use each effect of Fiend Beast Zoa once per turn. Okay, so that's it for the Fiend Beast Zoa. Let's look at the Metal Zoa. This is Metal Zoa X, so basically another version of Metal Zoa. And this card reads, cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned with enhanced Metalmorph, activated by tributing a level 5 or higher Fiend monster. So this already is a little bit more viable than the Fiend Beast Zoa, because not only does it, the other Metal Zoa, rather, because it does not specifically need Zoa, it could be any level 5 or higher Fiend monster. And there's a couple of them in the game. Let me show you a couple. We have Mist Archfiend, which you can summon it for free. It does pop itself in the end phase, but let's ignore that. I mean, just pretend that this actually can be summoned without any issues. And let's ignore the fact that you take 1,000 damage. Okay, this is not a good card. Let's try another one. You have Ido, the Supreme Magical Force. This is a really cool one. You cannot summon monsters. Okay. Ido is not a good one. My bad. Let's try again. Let's try Vanity's Fiend. This card's cool, right? I mean, it locks your opponent. Neither player can special summon monsters. Okay. Let's keep going. Grinder Golem cannot be normal summoner set. Oh wait, this card's on the forbidden list, isn't it? I think it is. Come on. There has to be another one. Oh look, Tongue Twister. This card works, right? If this card is tribute summoned and is sent to a graveyard, you draw 2 cards. This tribute summon card is sent to a graveyard, you draw 2 cards, and yeah, so this card can work for Metal Zoa, and you can draw 2 cards. Okay, jokes aside, the Unchained monsters are really good for this. The other things that you can do is the Jubel monsters are also really good for the Metal Zoa. So you already have some cards that actually work with them. You have the Phantom of Jubel, the Jubel Fusion. So there are really good Fiend monsters that we do have in the game that actually works for the Metal Zoa X. Let's read its effects. You can reveal this card from your hand, set one Metalmorph trap directly from your deck, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. So basically it replaces itself and it just sets any Metalmorph trap, which is kind of cool. It can set original Metalmorph. But take note, it needs the enhanced Metalmorph in order for it to summon. So that's very important. Up to twice per turn, if your opponent activates a spell card or effect or a monster effect, you can target one face-up monster they control, destroy it. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this effect is kind of niche. However, it does respond to monster effects, which is kind of good. It's not once per turn, it's twice per turn. So this is kind of solid disruption. This is disruption you will see like in monsters similar, like for example Fenrir, like Kashtira Fenrir for example. So, and depending on how easy it is to summon this card, uh, I'd say this card is kind of worth. Take note, it is a machine monster, despite it needing a fiend monster. So if you are fiend locked, for example, some of the Unchained monsters fiend lock you, or some fiend monster decks do fiend lock you, take note, you cannot summon the Metal Zoa if that happens. So just be careful when it comes to that. Okay, so let's look at the Red Eyes Retrain. This is Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon, and this card reads, must first be special summoned with enhanced Metalmorph, activated by triggering a level 5 or higher dragon monster. You can reveal this card in your hand, set one Metalmorph trap directly from your deck, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. So basically, all the stipulations and conditions and summoning and effect as the Metal Zoa X. So right off the bat, you already have multiple searches for the new Metalmorph trap, as well as like all the old Metalmorphs, which is something like the Metalmorph theme needed. Like just relying on an unsearchable trap to transform your monsters is not good. So just having these monsters have that effect is actually pretty cool, pretty strong. Level 5 or higher dragon monsters are super easy. Like you have Bestials, you have Noctovision Dragon, you have Gandora G if you play the like the Chinese sarcophagus engine like I am. Like this card can be normal summon without tributing, and it's level 6, so that's just another example. You can play Zephyr, you can play like Phantasme, and you can just use Phantasme as your hand trap on your opponent's turn, and then transform the Phantasme into the full Metal Dragon. So that's very, very, very good. Let's read the rest of the effects. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can negate that activation, and then you can inflict damage equal to half of one of their attack position monsters' original attack. So it's basically an omni-negate, which is really, really strong. It does have 3,400 attack, which is a very high number. Not many monsters can like go through this. It is a level 8 Dark Dragon monster that is a Nami. So it works with Chaos Space, it works with Bestial Lubellion, it works with Seifert, like it works with Samsara Dragon. That's already really good. If you've seen like my old Centurion decks, you already know how I really like the Bestial engine and how it pairs super well with the Centurions. This is a card that could be welcomed into that strategy, depending on how you play it out. So I've already been a fan of this Metalmorph like theme. Now let's check the copycat. This is Metal Copycat. So this card's level is increased by 4 during your opponent's turn. You can only use each effect once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can set one Metalmorph trap directly from your deck. Then, if you have enhanced Metalmorph in your graveyard, you can draw one card. You can declare one monster type. This card becomes that type until the end of that opponent's turn. So this card is incredible. It helps you get to your Metalmorph stuff the same way your other monsters do. But more importantly, This becomes level 5 on your opponent's turn, meaning that it could work for either Metal Zoa X or for Full Metal Dragon, because you can actually change your typing. I'll get into later what you can splash into this team that kind of makes this a very viable engine. But let's finish the rest of the cards. So we saw all the monsters, and most of them mention something called enhanced metalmorph. Let's talk about it. So this is enhanced metalmorph. Uh, so if you've seen periodically the history behind metalmorph, we had metalmorph, and then we had rare metalmorph. Now we have enhanced metalmorph. So enhanced metalmorph says you can activate this card by tributing one face a monster, special summon one monster that cannot be normal summon set that mentions enhanced metalmorph from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Then you can equip this card to it as an equip monster, or as an equip card with this effect. The equip monster gains 400 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot target it with monster and spell effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by monster and spell effects. You can only activate one enhanced metalmorph per turn. Uh, it's kind of disappointing that it does not stop it from being targeted by everything. The reason that detail is important is because of infinite impermanence, as well as like other targeting traps. But infinite impermanence is the most important one. But just having it be protected by targeting spells and monsters is kind of okay. You're covering a lot of your bases. Like, for example, the Kashtira deck cannot like do anything to you, pretty much. Unchained just struggles against your monsters as well, even though they do have targeting trap cards. Um, yeah, yeah, it's kind of cool because if you summon your like Full Metal Dragon and you equip it to this, we're talking about a 3800 beater that is almost untargetable by all means, and it's an Omni Negate, and it can burn your opponent. So this is pretty much like the win condition of your deck, and just having a way that can tutor this card within your entire engine is kind of strong. Okay, so you're probably wondering what's Time Machine doing here. Uh, Time Machine is actually a card from the Metalmorph theme, funnily enough. And not only that, but they actually made a retrain. So this is Time Engine. As you can see in the picture, you can see the Time Machine right here. So if you read Old Time Machine, it says if a monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon that monster with the same on the same position in the same field. Time Engine, if a monster you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, which is already makes it a lot better in Time Machine, target one of them, special summon it. It doesn't have to be specifically at the same zone. It can be at any zone. Then if it was a level 5 or higher machine monster, and you have another Metalmorph track card on your field or in your graveyard, you can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible, and also inflict damage, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, equal to the summon monster's original attack. Yeah, this is still a very niche card because it relies on your opponent destroying. However, it is a Metalmorph trap, so you can set it with either Metal Zoa X, or the Fiend Beast Zoa, or the Red Eyes, which already makes it already good enough. It's basically telegraphed interruption, but whenever telegraphed interruption is searchable, it's already good enough. One good example of that is Bestial Boldrake. So it's a 6 out of 10. However, just because it's searchable out of the theme, and sometimes you can just have this card set and your opponent does not see it coming, it's already really strong. And then we have one last card. It's called Approaching Machine. And this card says add one monster that mentions Enhanced Metalmorph or one Metalmorph trap from your deck or graveyard to your hand. If you control a Metalmorph trap, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target an opponent's defense position monster, change it to attack position. The last effect is super niche. However, the first effect basically means it's basically a rota for the entire theme. So everything here in this archetype can be searchable with this, which is already really good. It also sets the Metalmorph trap. So if you already had access to your engine already, and you already had access to your monsters and stuff, this card also helps with that. And even though it's very niche, the graveyard effect, it could help you win in time, just like attacking your opponent's monsters that are in defense. It could also just go for game on specific scenarios. Overall, we can't complain. It is a Rhoda spell for the entire theme. Now, this begs the question, can this engine be splashable? Can this be its own standalone deck? As a standalone deck, I don't think this is a good idea because you're heavily relying on Metal Copycat and on their Approaching Machine. However, one archetype that I can think of the top of my head that actually works with this theme very, very well is Whitewood. So the reason the Whitewood theme works very well with this engine is because this card can recur from graveyard, and you have other cards that can recur your Metalmorph cards from your graveyard. So you can use your Metalmorph cards as fodder for these Whitewood cards, and then just recur them later on. The other reason Whitewoods have natural synergy with this deck is because the Metal Copycat is a light spellcaster, which means you can either summon it with Asteria or search it with Arciela. So just having a theme that works with like one of the best cards in your deck just gives it a lot of utility. Whether or not we'll see this in the Whitewood theme itself, or we'll see this like in the future, is soon to tell. But I will say I am a fan of these cards. These cards are really nice legacy support. It does support like Metalmorph, which is again one of my favorite themes in the game. Yeah, I hope you found this informative and to your liking and understanding. You can just ignore these cards. These cards are jokes. Don't use these cards ever in your Metalmorph deck. If you do, don't say it came from this channel or from this video. Use these instead. These are a lot better. But yeah, that's it from me. Keep practicing and keep dueling.